Hello. Um, so I'm having a bit of an off day today. Um, no special contributors to this bad day. Just, um, I guess my fear of abandonment, which, as some of you may know, there are 9 traits that categorize someone for borderline personality disorder. So you don't have to have all of the 9 traits in order to be considered borderline. You actually only have to have 5 of the 9 traits, and it doesn't matter which 5. Any of the 5 will pretty much categorize you as someone who is suffering from borderline personality disorder. So the 9 traits, I'll just start from the beginning. The 9 traits are insanely potent and frequent impulsive behavior, major depressive states, and overwhelming anxiety. That's in 1. I guess a distorted sense of self or an unstable self-image. That's 3. Um, just kind of an insatiable feeling of loneliness. It's number 4. Splitting, which is it's when you idealize something and then you devalue that something, so you kind of have opposite views and opposite feelings and opposite thoughts on one topic, one idea, or it could be a basket of ideas, kind of like a lot of ideas that are similar. You kind of just have this overall admiration for that. You may love it, you may be obsessed with it, but then not too far after, you devalue that something. If it's an object or you're creating something, you might break that something. If it's just an idealism or an idea, you might kind of deconstruct that idea in your head and kind of throw away that information, or you might actually start to voice your feelings or your thoughts on that something. But it's just pretty much just that. It's called splitting. It's very, very, very interesting. I think it's one of the most interesting of the 9 traits, honestly. It's something that I struggle with a lot, and it's usually towards people for me. I can idolize someone, very much look up to them, and then 5, 10, 20 minutes later, for some reason, I'm on the opposite side of that scale. It's, yeah, very interesting. But also, so that was number 5. Number 6 is an unmanageable and unusual anger outbursts. So just kind of no rationality behind an anger outburst, just kind of something that comes out of nowhere. Usually is triggered by something. They usually just don't happen out of nowhere. It's usually a trigger that leads to that. So typically after those anger outbursts, there's always like guilt or shame. So that could make us really hard on ourselves. It's like, oh, I've already just went through this really negative emotion of anger, and who knows what happens when someone gets angry. When I get angry, I typically break things. I typically deconstruct things that I've already made, and it's really unhealthy, and it always sets me back. But the guilt and the shame, I think, it's worse than the actual anger outbursts usually. The guilt and the shame, it lasts for weeks, honestly. Sometimes it feels like it never even goes away. It's like I will kind of forever punish myself. It feels like I will forever punish myself for whatever that thing was that I did, and it's uncontrollable anger. Let's not forget that it's an anger that turns into a rage, and it is so uncontrollable. And we as borderline people, we already feel emotions so extensively and so extremely. It takes us over, and so that guilt and that shame following this anger outburst, it always just lasts so long for me. I'm working on soothing the senses. But, they're good coping mechanisms take time, just like anything else in life. So I am where I am. So today I actually was going to focus on fear of abandonment. That's the seventh trait. Self-harm and suicide or suicidal ideations is eighth, and number 9 is disassociative fits. For those who don't know, to disassociate means for a split second there are 3 parts to your mind. There's your intelligent mind, there's your logical mind, and then there is your emotional mind. So when people have dissociative fits, sometimes one of those minds can drift off, leaving a person feeling almost split. Or if multiple of those minds decide to, in a sense, take a break, then that one mind is the only mind left standing, kind of leaving the person depending on which mind drifted. So say my intelligent mind and my logical mind both drift away, and I'm left with my emotional mind. So what that can look like, it could look like me going into a crisis, fight or flight, and maybe right before that happens, I personally see images, like my cell phone that's in front of me that's recording this. It will look like it is 15 feet away from me, but at the same time it'll look like it's right in my eyes. So it's like I'm seeing these 2 different viewpoints. And with that comes a sense of panic. I feel disoriented. I don't feel like I can really move or make any quick decisions or quick movements. That's usually how it starts for me. There have been other times where I did not get any hint that I was going to have a dissociative fit. And typically, and I think it's when my emotional mind takes more of a backseat and my logical, my intelligent mind are at the forefront, I usually will space out, often in a different direction than the direction I'm focused on. And I will hold that gaze, that empty kind of gaze for, could be 30 seconds, could be 2 minutes, but it is an elongated amount of time sometimes. And the really interesting thing about those fits, they're not really fits, but moments, I don't remember them. I don't remember them as clearly as I remember the other disassociative fits, where I kind of am seeing multiple images or seeing multiple viewpoints of something. And so those ones kind of worry me more, just because it's lost time in my head. I've noticed some of those moments as I videotape myself more. But like I said, today I'm focusing on fear of abandonment. So my story. My family went away on Saturday afternoon. And I've kind of been like bouncing around from place to place, home to home, during the last few months. So staying with my family, my brother and whatnot, it has been really relieving in the way where I feel safe, and not even just safe from like bodily harm. I feel emotionally and mentally safe. I feel, I feel very grounded. And so they left. They went on a little trip. Family goes on trips. It's beautiful out, and so I am currently hanging out with a friend and at a friend's house, and just that the day I got here, I was so stressed, because I felt like they were never coming back. I started to prepare my next, like my next step, my next place, as if they were never coming back. And I was kind of, I guess, I had a snowballing of thoughts and emotions and urges and judgment based off of them never coming back. Even though I know factually they are coming back in a matter of hours actually now. And so it was so hard for me that day just to ground myself and just to like be able to think of anything else, to think of music or friends or writing or going out and having a good time. I was obsessed with this thought that they were never coming back. They abandoned me. I was all alone again. I didn't feel safe. I didn't like myself for not being able to feel safe. And so there was a lot of shame. There was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of judgment, like me just judging myself and judging my situation. And ultimately it led me to kind of like separate like just the people around me and the things going on around me. And I had to pretty much put myself to sleep in order to get through it. Like I literally took my meds a little bit earlier so that I would fall asleep, because those feelings of abandonment were so overwhelming that I just fell into a pit of so many negative thoughts, even though I factually know the day they were coming back. And it wasn't many days. And so I guess when it comes to that fear of abandonment, whether we create it or whether it's really there and someone really is leaving you for life, I don't have much advice on how to deal with that, but how I dealt with it. And I don't think putting myself to sleep was the right way to deal with it, but it was the only way that I knew how at that moment, without hurting myself or hurting someone else. And there were thoughts, of course, of me being mean to someone or trying to take that anger and that sadness out on someone. And of course, I chose not to. But it was a very dangerous moment. And I want anyone who is watching this to understand that, like, there will be those moments, especially with the fear of abandonment. I don't know why it is such a strong feeling. I don't know why we feel that way about abandonment. It's crazy the things we will do when we're feeling abandoned. It is insane the things we would do. Also, sorry, it's so the with the fear of abandonment also comes like unstable relationships and stuff. So it's really hard to have a stable relationship when you're constantly making up ways in your head that this person you're in a relationship with is going to abandon you, or your friend is going to abandon you. And it's really hard. It's a really hard thing to deal with. And so I just say stay strong, stay logical in those moments. Try to think of facts. Try to think of the facts and try to think of the good facts, and just find a way to self-soothe, and if you can't self-soothe, just find a way to kind of like slow things down, because when we're feeling that, everything's going so quickly. And I just wanted to just share my feelings and my thoughts on it. So thank you, and love you.